Welcome, everybody. My name is Lydia, and this is.
Darian.
And welcome to our very first episode of our Towns series. So, we're going to be going over mainly Estvale today, but because it's the start of the series, we just want to kind of talk about, just the 5 towns, why we have 5 towns, our intentions for that, and then we'll go into like mainly Estvale for today. So
We are going to be doing different series here on MythCast. So, like the
mhm.
first one was mechanics. Now we're going to be doing something that's a little more conceptual, like the lore of the game and stuff. We're going to be doing different ones as we go, and we probably try to keep them to about like half a dozen episodes or so. We are going to get back to doing the classes. Don't worry, we haven't. I think there might be, but there's still druids that we have to do. So there's still a couple of things that we need to go over.
Yeah.
So we're not going to just abandon that series. We're just heading in a different direction right now because we think some of this might be good to get out there.
Definitely. So I guess if Darian doesn't mind, I'll just start. So basically, we do have 5 towns, or I guess cities, as you would like to call them. And the reason why we created 5 was we wanted them heavily kind of coordinate with the religion and the god that you were following, because we wanted some sort of connection so that if people had fighting cities or like in the lore, if things happen to go a certain way, people had a safe place to go to. And of course, cities isn't always your main and only choice. We do and will have like more certain like little cabins or caravans that you could possibly take over. That's kind of in the future that we've been thinking about. We don't want to make it too vast, perhaps just 1 or 2, but that's kind of what staff has been talking about. It's not final yet, but the 5 cities are based on which god you follow. And of course, if you do read the lore site, it's not like completely set in stone. Like if you follow Saint Vita, you have to go to Estvale. Depending on the town, there are other places you can go and what type of person you are, like your character.
Right. And we've got them set up more so that like the 5 cities, not only do they have different religious influences, but they all have sort of a different governmental influence as well. So, the elves have a council that they convene that sounds on paper very similar to the Estvale like governor and his council, but really it's entirely different because they look at everything through sort of a group focus. They're not individualistic at all. So the council coming together, literally everyone in the elf town, if you're a citizen, when their council comes together, they would be able to talk. That's not the case in Estvale, where it's elected officials that are going to be talking. So even the ones that are similar on paper are going to play out differently in game.
Definitely. And even though we do have guidelines, we always like to, when we created Myth, like when me and Darian sat down and we started just like talking about what we wanted, the one thing that we did want is we didn't want to constrict players to certain, I guess, points about how they should act when they are in a town, when they follow a town, when they're following a religion. We're always open to like, the character and the players can change the way, they look at something. And Estvale is actually one of the first ones that we decided to talk about because it is now the starter city, and for many reasons. Reading into the lore, it is like the melting pot of the civilization, although it is mainly followed by Saint Vita. Saint Vita is a very neutral god, so he's looking over, the other, basically Alacor and Barlow. So he is the balance between those guys mainly and the other ones. So that is mainly why Estvale is the melting pot, because he's very much looking over everything, because time does tell all. And although they do have certain followings and they are considered, I guess you would say, a good versus evil religion, they are good. Some of the stuff that they do believe in probably would be bad to maybe some other places. But all in all, Estvale is considered like a neutral zone, and it St. Vidans do tolerate a lot more than say Monset would, or Meterstrin, or even a Mill would.
And I think a lot of that comes down from in the lore, and we did try to like have a lot of through lines where decisions we made early on, we followed them to their logical conclusion. So like, she was talking about Saint Vita's the third god came behind the other two as the split between day and night in the lore. But what it really talks about is that like this city itself is one where they're very conscientious. They're thinking about the things they're very free spirited. They're thinking about the things they need to do. It's a merchant city. It's a port city. So even though it's a neutral religion, the people are going to skew more on the good side because it's a mercantile based culture. And so law and order is important when you have merchants and a lot of trade going around. So even if we did early one of the early quests we did, I think, for Saint Vita was a funeral. We did a funeral for an NPC that had died, or actually several NPCs that had died, and we took some of the funeral lore from real life funerary rites, and we made it even that in universe this was an old style funeral, something that they didn't do anymore. And we really wanted to show that like it's a city that grows, because just because Saint Vita is a god of time doesn't mean that it's a god of tradition. Like time goes both ways, and even in parts of the story, some things from the future actually come back with Saint Vita. So they're and I think this goes for all of the cities, but they're not what you think initially. There's another layer to it where like it's this nice proper city where these people are a little European, kind of like fantasy Europe, but they literally accept necromancy if it's done with inside state sponsored. They could have skeleton guards, for example, if it's done with state sponsored necromancers, because they're a neutral town. Like they don't look at it as like an evil act, because their religion doesn't look at it as an evil act. The raising of a corpse, like the raising of a zombie that is well prepared and has the proper honors have been given to them, doesn't offend Saint Vita the way it would offend a Ralcor who's going to want to blow up undead no matter what. And that kind of friction between the cities was really important to us.
Yeah, and that's a great point to put, just to put Estvale into, like, the light that we're trying to put it. I mean, everybody so far has gotten, the right idea. But the thing that some people don't realize is they're all like, people just assume that Saint Vidans think that necromancy is bad. Now, the quest was basically the bad side of necromancy, and that's why it was frowned upon, because it was basically Kenneth brought back his wife out of basically greed because he was mourning over her death. Whereas if you took a guard that has done his duty and has perhaps either died honorably or even like too soon, it would almost be an honor if he was all right with that, to come back as an undead guard to continue serving Saint Vita, who is the god of time.
Right, like a guardian forever.
Exactly. That would be like considered an honor. And just like many religions and people are different, one Saint Vitan might automatically just be like, no, like I'm really not into necromancy. Like I follow Saint Vita, that is still wrong. Here's why I think that is wrong. Whereas there will be another one that will look at it the way that we just described, where they're just doing their duty. And that is just the vast, amazing possibility of having characters. Like you don't have to strictly be one way or the other when following one of our gods, as long as you follow true to the rules and you are very honorable in your following and your character has good intentions with the following, be it good or evil. We're not going to you know tell you have to do your character one way or the other. As long as you can explain it, then and it works with the following, then we'll see where that takes your character.
Right, that's actually one of the things that I was very serious about when I was sitting down to write the religions, was that as a rule we're almost never going to have the gods themselves ever interact with players. Because if you're playing a tabletop, or if you're playing a game or something, and there is a deity level creature that interacts with your character, everything they say is a crystallization of that religious belief. If Saint Vita were to show up and take a side on this decision, that's it. That is church doctrine. That's the orthodox view of it. And so we lose any of the nuance of the other people that may be trying to do something different or maybe trying to change the church. Like maybe that is something that a lot of, we think about changing the church in kind of a negative tone in fantasy writing, but we could have a lot of very well-to-do, like good aligned Estvalians who have outlawed necromancy, even though it is kosher within the religion, but have left that behind because just like with the funeral that we did, we showed that there's
Yeah.
an older religion and then there's the more modern take on it. And so maybe that's a thing that's gone away in the past. Like maybe there were church members that stopped that. We just didn't include them because we thought it would be something that we had to constantly explain. And
Mhm.
so we want it to be a detail for later on, but I like the idea that there are splits inside the church. Like
Yep.
having, we all come together to tell these stories, and having them come together in that to be able to talk about, like, to take a different opinion on something really kind of helps. It makes me feel good about the lore. um I think though that we probably should talk specifically about Estvale's church, which is a European style cathedral that's I think just a bit west of their mountain pass,
Mhm.
which I think is
Beautiful.
a beautiful, beautiful area. Like, and it's got like an outside sort of seating area with a little pool, and there's a statue there. Although maybe in the future, when you're listening to this podcast, this map is completely changed and it's entirely differently decorated.
Maybe it's like an apocalyptic situation.
But right
I
now,
mean, it's not in our plan,
it's got a
but
cute little pond and a statue. I don't know what it looks like
yeah.
your time. But that area, just like the cities, we want the churches to be taken over by players too. We want someone to come in and like make a priest that moves up or make a cleric that moves up. Like we are happy with that idea, but for now it does take that sort of I guess I don't want to say generic fantasy church, but it is the fantasy church that you would think of in like D&D.
Yeah, definitely.
They're a lot about stopping evil that threatens
Yeah.
the town. They're a lot about helping people that are sick. They're a lot about, doing the things that a church should be doing in this kind of community. Like they're a
Mm.
pillar of it. But in Estvale specifically, the church and the governor, the merchant side of things, work very, very closely together. And so you might find yourself at odds with selling anything or being sort of a free citizen if you are on the wrong side of the Estvale church. You may find it hard to do those things.
Mhm. And and yeah, just to go back to like, having priests and priestesses and high priests, that goes back to our when we originally created myth, we definitely had Mytheria in mind
Hmm.
because it was, dear to most of our hearts. And one of the big points of Mytheria, of course, was religions and who you followed and the following. And so that's where that comes in. Not only, like Darian said, we want, someone to take over, perhaps the governor. We do want someone to come take over the church and the religion of Saint Vita and perhaps become the high priest or priestess. Um, just like, in Mudistrin and in Mondset, we'll go over those when we go over them. But that's just something that everybody is welcome to create. Like, create your following, become involved in the community. We've already had, speaking of it becoming involved in the community, we do have an Estvale militia that has formed. There is, we have an Estvale St. Vita church,
Right?
but we don't have like a full one right now. We did have Kenneth, who was the priest. He was an NPC, and as we know, his fate was not. He went crazy.
Yeah, things
Due
didn't
to
go well for him.
necromancy. Things didn't go well for him. So we're trying to put that there is an opening to become the new high priest, and to create that following.
And there are some like very popular Saint Vita clerics that I will
Mhm.
say, as far as the clerics go, we've had one there for the longest time. Muriel, I think she's probably somebody's gonna be mad at me for saying this, but I think she's the longest played cleric at this point.
I think so too.
And so I figure that she may be trying to like move her way up, or at least I would want her to. I don't know if that's
Yes.
something that she wants to do, but like that's the kind of thing we're thinking of, is like this character, this archetype is in this town and it's very active and stuff. Would they be a good fit for moving up for those things? So you guys, we're probably not going to approach players about these positions. We're going to want that incentive. We're going to incentivize like you guys acting, especially if you are sort of like building a little group. That helps out a lot. But I think that with Estvale, when we're talking about what players would need to do, I think with the church they would need to do sort of. I think it would be sermons. I think it would be sort of the
Yes.
traditional like priest talking about different things. I kind of tried to do that when I did that funeral, but that's not something that I'm super familiar with.
Good. You did a pretty good job. It wasn't too bad.
Thank you, appreciate that. I've never done a funeral before, so that was a new one on me. Um,
That's a first.
yeah, that's the first. Um, but I think the sermon thing would be good. I think they also Estville has a lot of danger around it, so I think that the church is also going to be involved, especially like with the militia in any weird magical thing that comes along, because there will be some of that as we move forward. Um, we when Lydia actually was talking about Mytheria and us doing things sort of focused on the gods, we have done that for about a year now. And so I think that changing gears a bit and focusing on the world is a good idea also for our quest. I think that's something that we need to do, because now that more of the map is opening up, we can do more like breathing world stuff. And so when we get
Agreed.
players into these positions, the towns can not like each other. Um,
Yeah.
which some of them also already don't really like each other. We haven't been able to show that very well yet, but historically, Estvale and Montset have had a lot of problems with sort of trade routes in between the two. They're kind of
Mhm.
the big two cities,
Yes, yes.
and
Monset is kind of like your stuck-up brother, and Estvale is kind of just like done with it.
right, just sort of. I feel like Estvale, if it was personified, would be an old man.
Yes,
I think so.
definitely. That's why I made the governor that way. Yep.
Speaking of the governor, when players move into that position, I think it would be they're very mercantile focused, so I think they would probably be about expansion or fixing some
Yes.
things up. Actually, Estvale has some really cool buildings in it.
Yeah.
We've got I talked a little bit about the church, but they've actually got a fully working bathhouse with water that you can wade into, which I think is awesome.
Yeah.
With I think men and women's dressing rooms. There's also
Mhm.
salty mention in chat a courthouse, where I would love, when there's
Oh,
more
yes.
places to hide out, we get a little more criminals and we'll have some sort of like the militia will get to take people in. I would love to have like judge characters, or have the higher ranking like well-known citizens be judges and stuff for those kind of things. I would love that. That would be really, really cool.
Yeah, and of course we do have like, me, Nickel, and Darian have been talking so that when, the governor either passes away sadly or is outvoted, there is the governor's estate, which is up in the mountains, and you don't get the whole thing, of course, because it's like a government building. It's like the White House, I guess you would call it. But there is like, you do move in, and there is a room that you will be able to own as the acting governor. So that is something that, we are always thinking about, is like immersion. And you guys, everyone is your dream to like own a guild, or like be participating in a guild, and talk with other guilds, other religions, conflicts, and now that myth is just becoming a lot more, how do I put it? I don't want to say popular,
I
just
would
like,
say
a lot
involved. Like we
involved. Yeah, everyone's there's so many, like, a lot of you guys, of course, play your own roles, but as staff members, we see and we talk to all of you guys, obviously, and there's so much that's going on behind the scenes that isn't involved in your religion, but it's still going on, and that's what we're so happy about. Like, it's not just Esvale. There's like a Mill followers and Barlow followers and CERN followers, and there's a couple from there's like 3 to 5 people at least in each following, which is like so great because it just gives us a drive for our amazing map workers to like, us to just improve on what we've already had. And of course, if you do become the governor of Estvale, or like you become involved in the Montset community or the Mill Council, you of course will have says to like vote in if you want to reconstruct something. You can like, get resources and be involved in the map if you want something made. If you want a guild and you want a guild house, talk to us about it. We can see about getting it made and what resources and how big it should be. And we don't want you guys to think that that's not something you can do. A couple people have approached us, and we are working with them to create the things that they want. We just are getting more people involved with the cities, and this is just great, and we're telling you you can become more involved. The governor is not meant to be there forever. Like, we created him. I play him, by the way. A lot of people think that Darian plays him. It's me. I play the governor. But a lot of people, think that the governor is there for good. No, I made him old and frail and like really weird. And I made him like just not, he can get by with what he's doing, but I'm purposely not doing, like, you know what I mean? I'm not, the governor isn't like making new rules. He isn't like,
Right, because why would you do
charging people
that?
with stuff. Yeah, I'm waiting for someone that wants to come in and wants to actually, a character that would like to form a committee and a council and, use the courthouse. Look for those rogues and, those shifty people in the alleyways, perhaps killing people.
Right, we
I
have
don't know.
we've had crime problems in Estvale
We have.
before. I
We definitely have.
I think that one of the things that we're gonna, and I think I'll talk about this a little bit here, is that when you do become, when the towns do move over and they get taken over by players and stuff, I think that the way the towns interact with each other, and the way the churches interact with each other are pretty much going to be up to the players. Like, the way
Percent.
the way we have
Yep.
them set up is just sort of square one. And then after that, if Mitterstrand wants to make an
It's up
alliance
to
with
you, man.
someone, totally possible. If they want to break off trade relations, if Estel wants to ice a city out, something like that, it would be possible to do. Now, that's not to say that like there's not going to be retribution for that, and you're gonna want to be popular with the players because someone may want to depose you.
Characters, even, we don't like it to be like
Right, characters, of course.
like player against player. It's definitely all in game fun. And that's when I just want to say, like, all of this is what we've always wanted, except just look at it as the staff on Myth. We're more like, we're overseers. So basically, like, we will monitor the situation, and if it gets, and it won't get out of control, but we're here in case someone does have like a question, in case someone's like, oh, hey, like, this happened, do you think it's weird? And then we'll talk about it a little bit, and if
Hmm.
if we both, all if staff thinks it's weird, um then we'll step in. But otherwise, we're here to help set up weddings, to help, do rituals, to help, we're here to help do whatever you want, like, to help your character and your guild move forward. And also, we are storytellers. We do control like the world's quests. So that's where our main goal is, to create these, you know, campaigns for the gods and campaigns for the world, so that you guys can get little tidbits of information about the world and use it in your town, in your character, just to help things move. But when it comes to you guys, if you have a drive, if your character has a drive, go with it. Like, try to make meetings with the governor, not during 9 to 5 work hours, but we will find a time where the governor can come up and talk. You know, the militia has done that, and they still do that. I think there's still that giant ass spider that they want to get rid of,
That became a
that
dungeon,
keeps killing
actually.
people. Yeah. Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Okay, good, good. Excellent. See, we're working with you. We're doing things. Spider's not dead yet, but it's not chasing people down the street anymore.
Um, to go back just a little bit for something you said, though, is that most of those things come from misunderstandings, and we really haven't had a lot of that. But you know
there's something to be said about in role playing and even tabletop, that kind of thing. Having a good rival is very, very hard. And when you find someone that wants to, be the antagonist in your story or vice versa, it's something to really hold on to. You don't want to like stop that initially, because that's just a monster encounter. Like if you immediately kill any character that has any, different say or different opinion, then you're really just killing monsters. And like, we get that. That's cool, but you can do that in dungeons. The role playing part of things should be to, take things to their logical conclusions, or like to progress a story through, and characters through a story. So when the cities are having some friction, and when they're moving around each other and stuff, I think that's something that we should be really excited about, versus something that people are gonna worry about. I think it'll be fine. Although I think it would be really cool to have a big fantasy war. I think that would be
Right?
a neat thing to do in the future. But
Mytheria had them a lot. Sorry, I didn't mean to
no,
interrupt
no,
you,
not at
but
all.
that's like one thing that I and I know some other people who played Mytheria like remember like it was so much about the gods that like Freya, we created our own town called Muse, like, and everything was based off of that religion. We followed that religion. We were Freyans. There's Torians. There's like, I mean, it was just like the ultimate, like, you had like, that's what myth is becoming. You have your politics and you have your religion, which helps basically get you into the role play. You have a reason to have your character other than just going out and going to dungeons. You have politics, you have starting your own tavern, you have starting your own bakery, you have a cleric starting their own or taking over the church and opening up an infirmary. That's what it's called, right? I think so,
Could be.
right?
That we did say that we wanted to talk a little bit about that, where like some of the archetypes you can do, and a lot of Estvale, a lot of the archetypes are going to be doing things like opening shops, just like Lid said. It's going to be like taking one of the town areas or one of the house areas and turning it into a little infirmary or hospital. It's going to be opening up a magic shop with weird items. That kind of thing, totally doable, because we even have a tent city built, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with, where there are vendors inside, and those vendors change and stuff. And so they're all player vendors, so it's good to check them, because a lot of that inventory changes pretty quickly. But there's also the idea that there are the farmlands outside of it. There could be characters that led very exciting lives up until this point and retire to those farmlands, like old soldiers or old assassins that want to get away from that life could buy one of the farmlands outside of Estvale and have sort of a quiet thing until some bad thing happens on their doorstep, like it invariably does in
Some
these
bad
kind of stories.
thing.
But
Of course.
there's a lot of opportunity, especially in Estvale, because it is a mix of everything. So all the other races can walk around in there. Let's talked about that before. All the other races can walk around. So you could take, your race identity to be the core of your character. So you could play a newer generation orc, because there is that generational gap in orcs, where the older orcs live by the more honor-based tribal society, but the newer ones have sort of ingratiated themselves into normal society, or not normal society, but more modern society inside the towns. And so you could explore that, and what people are going to always think about that orc, especially if you choose a class that isn't like incredibly strength focused, or something that doesn't mesh with the idea people would think of immediately of an orc, or immediately of a drow or elf. If you're playing against one of those common archetypes, Estvale could be a really, really good place for you, because it's a place where anyone can show up and live there. Even if your own people would have ostracized you or has ostracized you, that's a town that could be like the last resort. And so it could also be like the reinvent yourself town, where you take those kinds of characters. And I think that could be really interesting.
Yeah, exactly. Like Estvale is pretty accepting until you start, murdering people or kicking up a stink.
Yeah, they're not good with like violence and disturbing public order. Those two
Yeah,
specific
like
things.
Yeah. Well, like an example, and this is something that isn't fully written down in lore yet, but it is like history. We just need to write it. But basically, Black Sands was created because Estvale didn't like what some of the Cernites were like doing.
I think that
They
is
were.
written somewhere. I remember this
Is it
story. Yeah,
okay?
this is part of the lore where Black Sands is essentially built out of people that were cast out of Estvale for being, too fun.
Too many orgies.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. You just can't do that. It's bad for public health. And you can't
Yep.
do it on the street, guys. We've got to clean. Someone needs a mop.
So the Cernites kind of took all their stuff, all their crazy gambling and their craziness, and just moved on to Black Sands and created their own little hub for tomfoolery.
Which,
And Salty Cat said Estvale's Australia equals Black Sands. That is very true.
well, I don't know. Hold on. They weren't just sending their criminals there.
It's true.
They
No,
were
I mean
sending out
they chose
everyone
to
that was
go.
groovy got
Yeah,
kicked
they
out.
just sent out everybody who was just like not as proper and was more openly, just openly, I guess, not Saint Veden.
It's true. I mean, they have all the time in the world, but no time for fun.
Yes, exactly. I mean, Saint Vita does like. Okay, I can't say that without a straight face. Saint Videns, I don't think would have as much fun, definitely, as Black Sands Cernites,
But see,
which is the reason why they moved out because they were people that were just like loud and rowdy and they were getting drunk in the streets all the time. And they followed this goddess called Cern. And so they said, hey guys, you should leave. And so they did. And they created Black Sands and made it a gambling whorehouse.
one of the reasons the towns are in the places they
Yeah.
are, and one of the reasons they're spaced like that is because those were original altars of the gods.
Mm-hmm.
So the towns are built out around those churches. So the really old churches are like literally where people used to gather. Which is why there are cairn stones and stuff sitting around. I guess that's how you say that. Sitting around the map. That our druids get to use a lot.
Yes. Exactly.
Actually, though, I think we've covered a lot with Estvale.
I think so too.
And we're probably going to talk about the other cities as we talk about them. But I think when you really get to what is, I guess, what is the core of it,
Right.
This series is about what the towns are now, as opposed to just their history. And we want this to be a series where we can talk about this is what this town option is, and these are what you can play inside of it. But we never want it to be like a coloring book. Like, we want
Right.
you to do whatever you want, like within reason. That's why we have you send an app, so we can go through your concept and see, like, does this fit the world? Is there some sort of lore clash with this? But most of the time people come up with these really cool sort of avant-garde concepts that have to do with sort of their uh like cultural identity or their loyalty to king and country, or whatever racial thing has. Orcs, for example, have a lot of stuff done with family and or the tribe or the clan, and elves don't really have much of that at all. So it really depends on like what concept you're trying to do. But I really like how players have taken these kind of soft ideas in the cities and really spread them out.
Right. And
I think.
oh, sorry.
No,
I
go
was
ahead.
gonna say, and I know, like, some people have been saying, and I understand some people are like, oh, well, we need more lore, but that was our intent. Because we don't want to give it all to you and be like, here, this is exactly how this book should go. We have seen we're a really old community. We know mostly almost everybody, other than some other people who are coming from other language shards, and so a lot of those people are
Mm-hmm.
coming. So welcome, and it's great that you guys are willing to be involved in our amazing little world. But from our community, a role play English community, we know most likely everybody or have heard or played with each other on other shards. So we know what you guys are capable of. We've played with all of you guys. So we've kind of roughly put out the lore that we want with the hopes that you guys would fill it in and kind of be intuitive and just like play with it and see what you can and can't do. Because honestly, if you make a guy that's just gonna kill everybody, of course we're gonna be like, okay, so like, listen,
Which is that would be hard to do here because there are some
we got
I
some
feel
gankers,
like
some really,
yeah,
really
we've got some
leveled up
really
people.
strong
Yeah, so
characters.
it's gonna be a challenge for anybody who wants to do that. But we're willing, like, um, Salty Cat says, "Come at me, bro." Yeah, man.
Yeah.
But you know, we know what you guys can do. We've seen how passionate, because like me and Darian and Nickel and the staff, we are just as passionate about our characters. And some places we've gone to, we haven't had the freedom to like go out of the box and live our characters' potentials. And we want everybody to have that opportunity. So I'm gonna ask Darian this because I know the answer, but just for, I guess, people who are interested in perhaps either A, becoming a religion icon, like, a high priestess or priest, or becoming perhaps the head of council for Monset, or Nictor, or the governor, you know, Darian, how would one go about showing interest in wanting to become the next governor or become the next high priest or priestess? How would they approach us or show myth that we want to do that?
So what I would do, or what I suggest, is letting us know in PM, like sending us messages like, hey, this is something, this is my intention, this is what I do. That's really good. It lets us know the trajectory of what you're trying to do, and it lets us like keep an eye on things so that when you are working towards these things, we can know like this event is going to help out, we can tool things a little bit. But really what it's going to take, and what's really going to push people forward, is doing events, doing those little like slice of life or tavern RP or like little idea events that get people in and get people focused on what you're doing. They're going to be huge because a lot of this is going to be depending on the city, a popularity contest. Estvale specifically is going to get a chance to vote,
Yep.
and so we're not going to be able to tell the players, hey, this character has done enough, that we think that they are a good choice. We might be able to do that through the governor. We might be able to do that through a character. But as staff, we're not going to really say, like, hey, you guys should do this. What we're going to do is set the people who are willing to put the time in and really putting the events in and stuff. We're going to put them against each other and give them the platform to like have a chance to get some votes, and then have the players pick and then go with that, because that's what that culture, that's what that people would do. The governor is an elected title. It's not like a governor for life kind of. But you getting that name recognition out there, especially in a role playing community like this, would be a good way to do it, because people are going to have to trust you to be the leader, because you're going to be sort of the director of what's going on in the town from then on.
Exactly.
A lot of stuff that's going to happen is going to go through the big person, like through the whoever's got the biggest hat.
Yes.
Um,
You are the leader. Like, that's what will happen, and that's what, going in with myth, with what happened also on Mytheria, like, staff is here to make sure everything is good, nothing falls apart, and we give you more content. You guys are in charge of creating your followings, becoming the governor, becoming the ruler of your town if you want to, or the high priest or priestess, and then also creating your followers of that religion and having your powwows, having your moon rituals, that kind of stuff. We do have, and again, I can't remember, but we guild stones will be available for the religions.
They're
They are
fine.
okay.
Everybody keeps worrying about them.
So then let's make them. I'm just saying.
They are.
All right. Well,
they're good.
Well, we got to roll that out then, because we got a lot of people who want to join. Their
I'm
their guild
afraid that
stones.
the impetus is not on me, it's on the players. I put out what you guys need to do to get a guild.
Right.
You need to get your application
This
sent
is
in.
very true.
I believe it was on a blog post. I'll make sure that that link gets posted when I post this podcast.
So guys, start to make your CERN followers and your ML follow. We already have a couple, but guild stones are available. so that, you have your little, it always felt good to have, your little quotations, what guild you belong to. If you're really passionate about becoming a Sir Knight or an Emil follower, become that.
Right, and we also will be doing that for the towns
Yes.
because some of the features we'll want to roll out are things like being able to control the guards.
Mhm.
That's a thing that is needed in pretty much every role-playing shard. So the players that are leading will be able to like direct the guards, protect themselves in the town, and I really want that to be something that's clear that when we're talking about guilds and stuff, towns are always going to be the safest. If you have a guild hall or something that's outside of a town, you're not going to be as safe as if you are inside. So,
Gonna have a fun time maybe, unless you're prepared and you
yeah, who
want to
knows?
have, like, look at it as hard mode. You know what I mean? You're, just like real life, you are more susceptible to things. But of course, everything will be, overseen by staff, and we'll make sure that everything is fair. But there are certain things that come with certain things that you do, much like in real life, and that's why we play this game.
I really think that doors should be lockpickable. I really
Yeah.
think that Estvale should have a wave of very savvy street urchin pickpockets that are trying to rob everybody blind. I think that's a thing that town needs because it makes sense. That would be a guild I would definitely approve. But that was a good question asking about like what they need to do to become the governor.
Yes. I just want to say, also, your forum stories, we all read them. Please keep them up. Like that's, and then read up on the wiki. Know your lore of the place you want to perhaps govern or look after. That is a big thing. Know your religion, of course, another big thing. And, write your stories, write your forum posts, have your gatherings, write forum posts after your gatherings. Because sometimes, activity and investment is very key, and not all of us, like, staff does what we can, and sometimes we're not able to be around. So writing a forum post, just saying what's happened is always good, because we do look at all of that.
Right. It's a good way to keep keep a record of things, and it I don't know, we've got some good writers in this community.
Full
It's always good to
writers, you
read through
guys
their
are great.
posts.
I love your stories. Yeah.
Okay, so do we have any questions about Estvale or about the towns?
Yeah.
Any lore related stuff? Or, I mean, this is sort of general question time. If you guys,
Paul
oh,
has a
we do
question.
have one. All right, go for it.
I knew it was. Yes, you
Yeah,
do. Do I need to consent to
his question was
permakill Virgil? You need Virgil's permission to permakill Virgil. So good luck with that one.
now, Hall. You weren't here the last time we talked about this. I think
Perm-
what we can do is we can set it so that the next time one of you kills the other, that's it. You're permanently dead.
Yep. If you really want to battle that and have a lovely
Mm-hmm.
Christmas.
Right. It's basically like you have to put your character on on the chopping block to kill another
Yep.
character. Both people have to agree. And then we can figure out what kind of spy versus spy or duel or whatever they want to do to kill each other. We're down with that. But we're not setting up no, that's the thing. Hull, we don't have rules set up for every permadeath. We're purposely not doing that. What we're saying is that if you and another player have a beef big enough that you want to kill one another, we'll work out rules and we'll make that work for you guys. But we're not going to set it up that you need to do X, Y, and Z to kill a character permanently, because then people will always skirt those three things and then use it as a weapon to hurt other players, which is how it's been used in the community for years and years and years. So we're going to have more of a duel system than just, someone busting out of stealth and killing somebody and that's it. Okay, so Hall also says that he has a question about about ghosts, but he heard those are going to be changed. Yes, we do want to have a knockout system in the future. I think there's kind of like a load bearing system in the way that the
Yeah,
last time we were
there's
talking
some.
about.
I don't know if Nickel is like eating a sandwich or something. He's here, but he knows more about the back end. Like, there's some things that we want to change, but we have to talk to Slegnor and, Nickel, people who know the back end, to see what is possible, what other staff wants. We know what players want, but we'll, of course, ask people.
It's a lot of change.
It's a lot of code
It's a big
change,
change,
so it's
but
probably not going to be. I'm not
we
going to give a
would rather it.
timeline.
Well, I don't know if I'd put any time on it at all.
because it could be a thing where we figure it out and we get exactly what we need to
Exactly.
do
It's
in the next update. But it's one of those large
we
changes
have
that's going to
wants.
take us sort of.
We have wants that's not what the current death system is. Right now it's just because it's in the coding.
But yeah, we would. I don't like corpse runs. I don't like the having to run back in as
Yeah,
a ghost and
agreed,
get your
man.
stuff.
I really like the knockout
I
system. We would like to bring something like that back. I just remember and know it's probably not going to be as easy as just doing it. There's going to be a lot of
right.
coding involved.
No, I think there was some
There's some reason. Hopefully, maybe it was
yeah,
the
there was some
patchwork
reason. I wish I
skeletons.
could
I don't know.
something
Something
like
like
that.
that. It
Yeah.
wasn't the patchwork skeletons that had to do with religion, but Salty Cat says, especially since a lot of hunting is solo right now and dying in a tough part makes it very hard to get your body back. We definitely
Well,
agree.
now hold on though, because there's two things there that are very important. Number one, why is a lot of your hunting solo? Why don't you have a group? Why aren't you running a ragtag band of adventurers that are out there trying to get treasure or whatever?
Uh,
I listen. I'm just saying that would help a lot. This class system is based on the idea that people work together. And secondly, some of the areas are supposed to be hard to get your body back. They're supposed to be difficult, so you don't just sit around in there and get the treasure chests.
a lot of people play at 3 a.m. You guys are night crew.
Yeah, we definitely do have a night crew. If you guys are wondering when the best time to play is, it's about 2 p.m. Eastern.
A.m.
Oh yeah, 2 a.m. Eastern.
I would say between 11 p.m. and like 5 a.m. is when there's a lot of people.
It's a nice
Yeah,
window.
it's a very interesting window. You can, yeah, and then also like if you're interested perhaps in, taking part in a town or becoming the governor, you could start to plan out in the forums if you haven't already, hunts. And I know I've seen you plan some hunts too, so I know that, you
Right.
don't do it.
Well, I don't want to yoke anybody with running a government or being a player leader if they don't want to. Like,
Agreed. Yeah, but if you do want to,
I'm not just gonna throw it at anybody, right?
bam.
Now you have to lead everything. No, that's a bad way of governing.
You got to earn it in the fact that when you're more into it, we know you want to do it. That is basically how I look at it, and I think the rest of the staff. If you are consumed by it and you're talking to people and you're trying to plan like how to make the city better, that kind of stuff, like, or even running a tavern, being continuing to be involved in the community, we will notice. And we want someone to run the town that is going to run it, basically. We're not looking to marionette someone. I guess that's the good way to put it. We're not looking to
Right.
marionette someone. We're looking for someone who actually wants to take initiative and do that. Like if you're listening to this and that was holding you back, you were waiting for us to like message you and be like you're the chosen one, you need to show us you're the chosen one. And you do that just by playing. Just by playing and doing what you do. And if your character seems like a good fit, we'll notice and then just, PM us and be like, I am interested. And we'll take it from there. We'll watch what you're doing. We'll see how involved you are with the community. That kind of stuff.
Right. And it'll be good because, players letting us know helps out a lot. If we know what you guys are after, we can pretty much finagle most of it that we're
Yeah.
doing. I think we're doing pretty good with that.
Me too.
So guys, I think if there are no more questions, we're gonna wrap it up.
I think so too.
So thank you guys for hanging out with us this time on MythCast. We appreciate you coming to us for this second series. We're going to be talking more about the cities as we go forward. We'll tell you a little bit about the next one. Just like we used to pick the classes, we would always have somebody just say the next name into the chat,
Nick,
which is
there we
Nick
go,
Tar.
Nick Tar. Salty was a little slow.
It already happened. But yeah, we'll do Nick Tor next time, which is good because it's open too. There's housing open for that one.
Mm-hmm.
If any of the people are interested in that, let staff know, because the signs are hidden because you have to go through the council for a Nictor. It's not like Estvale where you can just, buy a
Yeah, they are
house
a
if you
beehive
have money.
and they work together to be the best of the
Right.
very best. But they already are the best.
Oh, it's so beautiful though. That part of the
Yeah,
map looks
but
great.
they already are the best, basically. If you talk
I
to
don't-
people from Nick Tour,
If you talk to one of them, yeah,
they are the
definitely.
best.
Well, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us. We will be back with Nick Tour next time.
Yeah. Bye, guys.
Thank you so much, guys.